Hey folks, welcome to another episode of Cutter One. I am your host, Jay Just Jay, your resident troublemaker and your resident culture warrior. I hope you're all doing well. All right, as we just chug through this Monday. So, got a story here. And it came out over the weekend, came out on Saturday. Um eh, it's one of those things that makes you scratch your head and you're like, okay, what was the purpose here? Um so I mean, I guess let's just get right into it. All right, let me see. Whoops. Yeah. Okay. Here we go. This is coming to us from the good folks over at CBR.com, and is Isildur isn't the Rings of Power's hero. He's the villain. With Isildur's entry into the Rings of Power, he's been set up as an unruly hero of the show. Yet it would be more accurate to make him the villain. This is by Ben Hardwick. All right, let's see what Ben's argument is. With The Lord of the Rings of Poo-Poo taking place midway through the Second Age of Middle-earth, Isildur's introduction into the story is far sooner than in Tolkien's lore. But being a show that needs to condense a plethora of details into something watchable, it's an understandable change. And so, with Isildur's sudden involvement in the tale, the Rings of Power has the chance to portray him as the person he really is, a villain. Whether it be from the original novels or Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings trilogy, most know that Isildur will eventually defeat Sauron on the slopes of Mount Doom and take the One Ring for himself. However, this isn't the first time Isildur makes morally questionable decisions. For his entire life, he was a maverick who wanted the spotlight, and it all leads to the eventual downfall of his people. Isildur loved Middle-earth's spotlight. To Isildur's credit, he never sides with Sauron throughout his entire tale, even though most of his people eventually joined the Dark Lord. And because of this, he got his first taste of fame after stealing from the traitorous men of Numenor, as he managed to take a sapling from the Numenorian special white tree that Sauron planned to destroy. This white tree was once gifted by the elves and stood as a symbol of men, so Isildur was greatly praised for managing to sneak in and save a piece. This is the tree that you see on the Gondorian flag. For his victory, Isildur later ruled much of Gondor and had the capital city of Osgiliath, foolishly, built on the very border of Mordor. And his overconfidence soon cost the lives of his people when Sauron's forces attacked Osgiliath, which forced Isildur to flee with his wife and children and leave his city in ruin. In his frustration, Isildur then cursed the men of the mountain for breaking their oath and not aiding him in battle, a curse that Aragorn later removes in The Lord of the Rings. The battle against Sauron. With the formation of the last alliance, Isildur's father, Elendil, led the forces of men into battle, and fighting beside him was Gil-galad, who bore the prestigious title of High King of the Elves in the west. Together, these two kings fought Sauron at Mount Doom and managed to weaken the Dark Lord to the brink of death. But just before Sauron reached the breaking point, they were defeated and slain by his hand. It was here that Isildur grabbed his father's sword and cut off Sauron's finger, breaking his bond with the One Ring and destroying his body. Isildur happily embraced his status as the one who defeated the Dark Lord, but he only dealt the final blow after Elendil and Gil-galad's hard work. Then, of course, Isildur kept the One Ring, and his greed kick-started the events of The Lord of the Rings. So, while there are plenty of heroic quantities to Isildur, he's far from the hero he believed himself to be, and the Rings of Power can finally show this. Instead of setting him up as the destroyer of Sauron, he should be shown to be the hot-headed maverick who makes foolish decisions out of his need for fame and fortune. Yeah, so... yes, Isildur does exhibit some questionable behavior, right? I would say calling him the villain is a little bit of a stretch. No, not even a little bit of a stretch, a lot of bit of a stretch. Um, you know, Isildur, he he was human, right? And he made mistakes, right? And he's not perfect, and he wasn't, a perfect leader, a perfect ruler. But I wouldn't say he was a villain. I wouldn't say he was motivated by that, as the article implies, the need for like the spotlight, the need to be center stage, right? Um, I would say his motivations were good, but like, the old saying goes, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. I think that his motivations were good, but he screwed up, i.e. building Osgiliath right on the border. Now, I understand there was reasons why he did that, and I'm not going like book level on this. I'm sort of just touching on it from a very surface level, right? You can't call Isildur the bad guy. You could say he was flawed. Was he a flawed king? A flawed Numenorian? Absolutely. The same way I would say Isildur, his flaws put him squarely in the same category. If you think about King Arthur and Sir Lancelot and stuff, and their flaws, right? They had shortcomings as individuals, but it was far from making them a villain per se, right? And even in our real world, that we have people that we consider heroes, historic figures that when you really learn the details of who they were, you could see that they were flawed individuals, right? I could name several, but I don't want to set anybody off. Not that I particularly care, but it's not the point of this channel, right? I don't want it to turn political or anything like that. But there's several historic figures going back just between like the 1940s and today where they were heroic people, heroic figures by and large. But they were flawed individuals, right? Some were cheating on their wives or didn't pay taxes or whatever and stuff like that. But that doesn't change the fact that the things they did were good and came from a good place. It doesn't make them a villain per se. And I think this article is sort of stretching it by saying he's the villain, and it's sort of advocating for what I would say is more destruction of Tolkien's lore. Um, you know Tolkien, he wrote his heroes as being less than perfect, and Isildur squarely falls into that. Nobody's denying that. He is a less than perfect person, a less than perfect human or man. But I wouldn't advocate for depicting him as a villain. I think that's just more of this sort of rings of power nonsense where like we latch on to everything and sort of use that as an excuse to tear down an established character. I mean, if we can, according to Ben Hardwick of CBR.com, if you can call Isildur the villain for all his foibles and all his flaws as an individual, right? Then what the hell would you call Galadriel, who literally advocated for ethnic cleansing of the orcs? I would say then she goes above and beyond being a villain. She is like the epitome of fucking evil. If Isildur, in his foolishness and his ego writing checks that his ass can't cash, right? If that's enough to make him a villain, right, in the Rings of Power, then goddamn Galadriel, who's advocating for literally wiping entire races of beings off the planet, okay, and torturing their quote unquote leader by forcing him to watch her kill each and every one of them and save him for last. If Isildur is a villain for his foibles, then Galadriel is the devil himself. Okay, so if we're gonna go down that road, Ben Hardwick, Let's be careful as to how quickly and easily we want to toss around villain status over little nonsensical things, because your strong and independent whammon Guy Ladriel, okay, a lot more villainous than Isildur will ever be. But I digress. I will let you guys discuss it down in the comment section below. Let me know what you think. Do you think Isildur was a villain? Do you think CBR.com's Ben Hardwick is just, riding the train of, like, this stupid nonsensical interpretations and reimaginings that Rings of Power is inspiring in those who really aren't fans of Tolkien? Or do you think that, if we're going to go this route and we're going to play this game like, hey, let's make this character a villain. Why? Because they're a man and they're not perfect, and therefore that means that they're a villain. Then, hey, I'm sorry, pyroclastic bukkake face Guy Ladriel is the single biggest villain in that show. Even more so than the psychopathic freaking Harfoots. She is the single biggest villain, more than Sauron. Okay? She's got Sauron beat. She knowingly advocated for ethnic cleansing, but I digress. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. If you like the video, like the video. If you want to share the video, by all means do so. It helps us get seen and it helps us with the YouTube algorithm. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, I would hope that you would consider subscribing to the channel. We are a fun bunch, and we are always looking to have more folks join the ranks of the army of beautiful badasses as we hold the line, defending the professor and his works from the nonsense that is Rings of Power and its associated shill media. If you are a returning subscriber, as always, thank you from the bottom of my heart. It means the world to me. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this one. Like I said, let me know what you think down in the comment section below, and I will see you on the next one. Remember to be good, be safe, be awesome, but most importantly, stay more dorkish. Peace.